I was a big meat eater.
Yeah.
I loved meat. Even right now, I would say openly, meat tastes amazing. Who doesn't? I became vegan after accidentally stumbling across a video on YouTube. I mean, if there's an argument I could give to continue doing what I was doing, I could have done that, but there was literally no excuse other than saying I'm a big asshole to the animals.
Influencers like Piers Morgan and Joe Rogan talk about when vegans consume avocados, almonds, they're killing more small animals than just eating the meat directly. Hong Kong is the second country in the world where people live the longest, and it's also one of the top countries where people eat the most meat.
I understand the status quo is not conducive for veganism for everybody. Let's change the status quo, not use that as an excuse to continue doing what we've been doing for the past thousands of years. On what basis are you right now comparing a plant to an animal? Is cutting a potato equal to chopping your head off?
What is the issue with having dairy? This is our Indian culture.
Eating meat is natural, agreed. It's definitely not the natural order of things because my friends, family, colleagues, people I grew up with, everyone just thought I had gone insane. But I was so certain that I am not insane and this stupid society is insane. Because if a message of peace and non-violence is considered as controversial, then that means that bloodshed and murder is the norm of the society. I am just asking for peace and non-violence for animals.
Hi everyone and welcome to Kindness with Amy. Today I'm joined by Arvind, who is an incredible individual, ex-Amazon, now full-time animal activist. Arvind, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited. So Arvind, please tell me about your journey. Why did you, one, go plant-based, and two, why did you decide to pursue a career in animal activism?
Okay, so first, number one, a correction I'd have to make. I'm definitely not plant-based. I'm a vegan.
A vegan,
because
of
we
course.
have to definitely, and it's a good opportunity to distinguish between the two.
Yeah.
Because plant-based is merely someone who chooses to eat only plant foods or primarily plant foods, be it for health reasons or whatever reasons. Vegan is someone who does not take part in any form of animal exploitation whatsoever because I have an ethical problem with doing so. So I've been a vegan now for the past 10 years. And I became vegan after accidentally stumbling across a video on YouTube titled The Best Speech You'll Ever Hear by Gary Yourofsky. And I watched that video with an open mind. And by the time that video was done, I was like, crap, like I have I have nothing to say.
Yeah.
I'm completely, and I started watching more of his videos, his interviews. And I realized that I think the words he used are very, very powerful.
The golden rule states, do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. Animals qualify as others, and thou shalt not kill.
Very direct and straightforward. And I couldn't argue. Like, I mean, if there's an argument I could give to continue doing what I was doing, I could have done that. But there was literally no excuse other than saying I'm a big asshole to the animals. So that's all I could possibly say. Yeah. So that's why I chose to change. 10 years ago.
Wow. So what has your journey been in animal activism?
So I changed in 2014 to a vegan. I began doing activism only around 2016.
Okay.
And at that point, I was catching up with a few other vegans I met in Chennai. And we would go to the beach and the parks and, give out leaflets, make people watch some videos or give a talk about that if they're interested to them. But honestly, deep in my heart, I knew that just by me being a vegan, nothing's changing. I chose not to be a part of the violence anymore, but that doesn't change anything. And people around me, honestly, those who are working with me, I was very difficult to work with in the office because once that flip is switched on in your head, you don't see meat anymore, you see dead animals. It's once that connection is made, it's an irreversible one as far as I know. So I was pretty hard to work with because eventually we would all have to sit down at lunch break to eat. And I would not be very nice to people. Now, this is one thing.
Really?
Yeah. And this is one thing in hindsight I kind of regret because I guess at that point in time when you're exposed to all these kind of videos showing what's happening in slaughterhouses, dairy farm. By the way, feel free to cut me short anytime because I speak a lot. When I was watching Earthlings, your first time you watch this and your brain is literally melting. I was literally crying, looking at the screen. I was asking myself, what on earth is going on? Is this actually happening? And the people I know around me who are otherwise good, compassionate, decent, sensible, intelligent people seem to drop to negative level digits of IQ when suddenly you ask them to be respectful to certain species of animals. It's a complete opposite. So I began talking about veganism to my colleagues. When lunchtime came, I would say, oh, you're an animal killer, abuser, you're eating meat. Does it feel good for you? Does it? I used to do all those kind of things. Nowadays, I don't do that anymore, obviously.
Because at the start, we're angry. Like, well, I mean, we're still angry, but it's like, I feel that when you see all this footage of like animal suffering and the magnitude of it, the true magnitude of it, and you see other people just like living life and not caring,
And they
but they
choose
are
to
good
make
people.
fun of the suffering.
Yes.
Choose to mock it.
Yeah.
They will purposely, I remember like at one point of these team outings, and earlier I used to take part in them because I was a big meat eater.
Yeah.
I loved meat. Even right now, I would say openly, I mean, meat tastes
Yeah.
amazing. Who doesn't?
Same.
Yeah,
I was a
who do-
huge meat eater.
Exactly. Who
Loved
doesn't
it.
like meat? So
Yeah.
they know I don't eat animals anymore, yet they'll go, like, I'm sitting and working on my laptop, and there'll be a phone call behind me. Hey guys, shall we catch up for a lunch today? Okay, how about lamb chops? Meh. Like, they'll purposely speak that way in front of me just
Like,
to infuriate
why
me.
do people do that?
Well, because I was also kind of a bit of an ass to them as well. Like,
Yeah.
I would keep going to them, oh, killer, 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 how dare you? So, in fact, at one point, I called a lady at work Hitler, and she went and complained to the manager. Luckily, it didn't escalate to the
You
HR.
called a lady Hitler.
Yeah.
I love
So, so we all start somewhere,
that.
right?
Yeah.
So then at one point, and plus when I changed, I was just 22. When this happened, like 23, 24, I'd say 23, 24 is not even an adult. It's still I'm right now
Yeah.
33.
Yeah.
It's a very young age, and so much anger and rage and testosterone in the body, you just don't know what to do with it. Then after a point in time, you understand, okay, it's okay to have these kind of feelings within you, but you need to communicate things in an effective way to make people listen to what you're saying,
Yeah.
at least try to hear out what you have to say.
Yeah.
So after seeing how my colleagues behaved, and my family, by the way, who also like, I remember once my grandparents came to my house, and they were like, they don't sit on chairs, by the way, they only sit on the floor on the mat. And I was sitting on a chair and they're sitting down. They asked me like, Arvind, why don't you eat the sweets we brought for you anymore? Why are you like this, not drinking milk anymore? And I gave them like this 40-minute long speech.
Oh
And
my
they, of course,
God.
they didn't have anything to say, but they were all like very scared because I used to get emotional and yell and, do all that kind of stuff. But no one changed, basically. My friends, family, colleagues, people I grew up with, everyone just thought I had gone insane. But I was so certain that I am not insane and this stupid society is insane. Like till now, I'm at full confidence, I'll say that.
Yeah.
So, because if a message of peace and non-violence is considered as controversial, then that means that bloodshed and murder is the norm of the society. Right? So, I am just asking for peace and non-violence for animals.
And that's referred to as propaganda.
And extremism.
Yeah.
Vegans are extreme. So with that being said, I decided I don't want to just sit in that 8 to 5 job anymore and keep doing what I'm doing. I have to contribute something more. So then I asked myself, what can I do? I saw more of Gary's videos, was inspired to give talks. Like right now I go and give talks in universities and institutions because I'm completely inspired by him. That's you can see it's entirely, basically it's his speech taken, copied by me. And then I've basically mixed in some Indian herbs and masala to it. And also an Indian version of Gary Arofsky's speech. And I've now been going around giving that speech, making more content on social media. And just one thing led to another. And in between at that time, when I was quitting my job, which by the way, we're recording this right now, if I can say 23rd of September, right? 1 week from now, it'll be 8 years since I quit my job. And at that point, did find another person, a girl who was willing to support my work and everything I did. And she's been with me since then for the past 8 years. And we have been doing all of this together, and now I'm here. That's like one way to put it.
That's absolutely amazing. So I was reading online that Hong Kong is the second country in the world where people live the longest. Okay. And it's also one of the top countries where people eat the most meat. So something that I am wanting to try and understand is how does that even happen?
So firstly, from my perspective, I do not give a health argument to someone to be a vegan because you don't need to be a vegan to be healthy. In fact, you mentioned about how in Hong Kong people live, how long, by the way, 90 years?
Something like that.
Something like that,
85
right?
to 90
85
is
to
the
90.
average, yeah.
Well, if we take a boat and just swim some 1,000 kilometers up north, you'll reach the islands of Okinawa and Japan. And there it's the exact opposite, where meat consumption and dairy consumption is at the least and plant-based consumption is at the maximum. It's called as the blue zones. Have you heard of that word before?
Yes, I have, yeah.
There are a few pockets of people who are primarily, that's why I said they are plant-based. They're not vegan, they're plant-based. And they too live just as long, if not longer. The argument I'm making as an animal rights activist is not that stop harming animals because it's beneficial to you. Stop harming animals because you have no right to do so. And whatever you do right now as a meat, dairy, or egg consumer, I'll make sure you do the same thing as a vegan. That's all my argument is. So if you're saying they're living up till 80 to 90 by being non-vegans, well, I'm arguing you can still live up to 80 or 90 or even more by being a vegan, just without harming the animals. I'm only looking at the animal right perspective part. I don't care if meat is healthy or unhealthy, doesn't matter. We shouldn't be harming animals regardless, is my point. You get my point? Like,
yeah, I do. I think for me, it's like I feel that we have the ability for moral and rational thought, which other animals don't. So
Right.
to me, by default, that then gives me the basis that I can decide choice A or choice B to hurt an animal or not hurt an animal. So when I do hear these arguments that, oh, people in Hong Kong live longer because they eat meat or whatever, I'm like, well, it's also irrelevant to me, because if I can still live a happy and healthy life, getting my nutrients from plants, and I don't need, like, I clearly don't need, we have peer-reviewed data that shows we don't need to kill animals biologically, then why do I care about that? And there's also multiple factors that actually, I think, affect someone's longevity. It's not just what they're eating. There's societal factors, there's environmental factors, there's stress, there's work. There's so many other cultural factors that I think impact how long someone lives, not just like physically what they're ingesting. So I do find that argument really ludicrous anyway.
well, it is possible to design studies in certain ways where we account for all of those factors you just mentioned. And even then, let's say they account for all of those factors and still prove that you can eat meat and still be healthy. Now, if someone tells me, hey, I can't be a vegan and still live as healthily or as well or as long as I would if I was consuming a plant. No, I'm so sorry. How did I say that? Like, let's just say someone says that, hey, I have to eat meat to be this healthy. I'm saying you can do the same thing on plants, on a plant-based diet. It is possible. That's my only argument. If I fail you in that regard, I think you have the right to say, you know what, I think there's some BS here. But there isn't. There really is not. With proper nutrition and supplementation, I will admit that veganism is not the natural diet for human beings, obviously. Human beings are omnivorous creatures. We grew up in the forest as hunter-gatherers, meaning that we did eat animals and we gathered. But in this modern day and age, like, we have a choice because we have developed agriculture to such a degree. We were actually able to produce so many crops that, you know, meat is a luxury. That in the ancient times, only kings and queens and rich people would eat meat. And people who are called as peasants would eat mostly plant-based food, because you have to now take food that is fit for human consumption, feed that to an animal, kill the animal, and then get a small portion of meat in return. Far more kilograms of plant food that is edible for humans to produce just 1 kilogram of animal flesh that's also edible for humans. Only the rich people could afford that. But right now, with industrial revolution, modern day agriculture, and human technology, everyone's living like kings and queens. Everyone's eating meat, dairy, and eggs. So the point I want to make is that, like you said, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, can you live a healthy, good life without exploiting animals? The answer is yes. Then I think we are morally obligated to do so.
So we hear a lot of these influencers and individuals like Piers Morgan and Joe Rogan talk about the fact that when people consume almonds, when vegans consume avocados, that all of these, they're killing more small animals than just eating the meat directly. And they use this as a basis to justify consuming meat.
Well, firstly, people who say that don't necessarily care about the small animals who are killed for, what is it, avocados and almonds, because they could just be a vegan who doesn't consume avocados or almonds like myself. Like, I'm 33 years old, never eaten a single avocado in my life. I don't even know what they taste like. Vegan does not equal to avocado. Right. So first of all, if they really had an issue with that, be a vegan who doesn't consume it, who's forcing, no one's saying if you're a vegan, you have to consume these foods. You don't have to. And second thing is, I think you're taking data from the West here, or this is more of a Western thing?
This is a very Western thing.
I don't think I'm much aware of the data there to comment specifically on that. But if someone is making that statement, that's not a justification right now to now take a knife and shove it in a cow's throat. Oh my God, I'm killing bees. Vegans are harming bees and other small animals for almonds and avocados. Let's kill that cow. Doesn't add up. How about we not kill the cow and also not consume avocados or almonds, as none of those three are necessary for surviving or being vegan. That would just be my argument.
Yeah, I mean, that's an absolutely fair point. You can just not have those things, like if you're using that as the basis of your argument. And I have had that as a more recurring argument that I've been hearing in India as well, especially with the almond thing, because almond milk has started becoming more prevalent in India.
It is?
And Well, in Bombay it is.
Oh, okay. Well, I've personally tried almond milk twice in these 10 years of being vegan. Do you
Yeah.
like it?
No,
I don't. It tastes like crap,
it's
right?
yuck.
It's watery.
Yeah.
Why am I paying 450 rupees for that stuff?
Actually disgusting.
Yeah, soy milk is awesome, by the way.
I like soy milk.
Love soy milk.
And it's great. It's nutrient dense. Like, I just think it's
Exactly.
the best milk that you can have.
Completely agree. Soy
Yeah.
milk is awesome. I don't even drink almond milk. So again, vegans are not the biggest consumers of almonds either way. All human beings who want to eat almonds eat almonds. So again, how is this solely a vegan issue is something I just
Yeah.
don't understand.
Okay, so I wanted to answer some very popular questions that we get on questions,
Understandable.
comments, rude comments, whatever. I get a shit ton of stuff come onto
Okay.
my page. And some of them are just hilarious. Some of them are legitimate. Okay, let's see. So, what is the issue with having dairy? This is our Indian culture. Why are you bringing Western ideas into India?
So firstly, to understand this point of the person who's mentioned this, we have to define the word culture. If I have a particular point of view and I act upon that point of view, it's called as a belief. Now, if I teach this belief to my children, it's called as family tradition. If this family tradition is now passed on to everyone in the tribe or the village, it becomes the culture of the village. So culture traced backwards is basically one particular person's point of view from many thousand years ago. Now, why on earth should I, when I'm born in this world, be like, someone said something thousands of years ago, therefore it must be right? I mean, the whole thought of saying that just because something is culture, that it has to be right, is stupid. It's illogical. Just because something is cultural doesn't make it necessarily okay. So let's now question the culture, which I know many people don't want to do. It makes them uncomfortable. Dairy production involves, like any other mammal on earth, female mammal lactates only when she is pregnant or after having given birth. So without forcefully making a female animal pregnant against her will, you cannot produce dairy. This is just basic biology. So now we have to answer the question, do we have the right and dominion over some other female animal's body just to exploit it sexually and then make her give birth to a child, chop that child's head off, and then drink that milk and say, boy, culture sure is great. I mean, the point is it's violent. And people have to recognize that and understand that culture is simply not an excuse to continue doing an action that is immoral or wrong. And again, people love to say, oh, look, it's Western. It's Western. Honestly, is veganism Indian? No, it's not, because it was coined by Donald Watson in the UK, right? So yeah, I can say it's Western, no issues. But then the point is that the same person who commented that, just guessing, probably plays and watches cricket. That's an English sport. He's not playing kabaddi, he's watching cricket, right? Same person is probably eating out at a restaurant, I don't want to name any brands, that has golden arches, has an old man holding a bucket and smiling with glasses. And they would love to take part in every single other thing that is not part of their culture. But God, like I told you, God forbid, when we ask people to be nice to some certain species of animals, the IQ levels just start dropping. So that's a nonsensical thing for someone to say.
Absolutely. It's weird. I feel like when we're talking about intelligence levels, I feel like people who are genuinely very intelligent, the moment the word vegan comes up, their intelligence level goes from up here to down here. And these are smart people. Like, you look at astrophysicists like Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's such a smart guy, but then the moment vegan comes up, it's a
he
different
turns into a plant
conversation.
rights activist.
Yes. Same with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's not an idiot, but he
haven't watched too much of his stuff, I guess.
the stuff he says, and I just don't understand. Like, how is it, like, even in my own friend group, in my own life, I have seen genuinely people that I think are very educated and very switched on, emotionally intelligent people, just so dumb when the concept of animal rights comes up. It's like there's like a block that just like comes here because they don't want to think about it. They don't want to be like confronted
reminded of
with
it.
it. Yeah.
And you know the reason why, obviously, right? It's because you're now talking to an addict. If you were to go to someone who's, say, a chain smoker or a drunk and tell him, like, you know how your life sucks? It's because of the alcohol. He's like, oh my God, really? I never knew. Think, how about you mind your own damn business and let me do what I want? Right. Similarly, when you consume meat, dairy, and eggs, especially in this modern day, more processed form, where you have a lot of sugar and salt and oil mixed in between, like when you bite into that stuff, man, there's like an explosion of chemicals in your brain. It's called as dopamine, the major pleasure releasing chemical in the brain. And what happens is that when you do consume it, you get extraordinary amounts of satisfaction and pleasure. So people are literally hooked to this, like how they're hooked to alcohol and cigarettes. So when you go and speak to them, they're not going to respond rationally because you're now asking them to give up something that feels so good to them. If meat, dairy, and eggs tasted like neem leaves, trust me, we would not be having such a hard time convincing people to be vegan.
Yeah.
It would suddenly all make sense. Oh my God, we're hurting animals, let's stop.
Yeah.
But no, I derive pleasure from this. But if I say I'm doing it for pleasure, I'd be an asshole. So let's just say culture instead. So
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons.
It is just the taste profile, at the taste and the textures that we crave, and it's an emotional bond that we have with
that
food
too.
from childhood, right? And so the moment you question that and question taking it away, people get very defensive about that. And I mean, now so much is in the last 5 to 10 years, how much has happened with like replacements for like everything. And even if there weren't, I would still be vegan. But it's like the fact that we're now making it so much easier for people who love to eat meat, who love to have dairy, to have amazing alternatives that just make it so feasible. Like there's no excuse left anymore for most people. But yeah, they'll still make excuses.
There is no social or legal repercussions for abusing animals also. For example, if I abuse a child right now, my friend circle would shrink. My family might abandon me if my name comes out tomorrow in the paper saying Arvind's a child abuser or he's a domestic abuser. Like, that's a social repercussion I'll face, right? Or a legal, I might be jailed or something. You have to face no repercussions for harming a chicken, a cow, a pig, or a buffalo. If anything, society will love you and praise you and, you know, look at you like a hero for doing that.
And if I abused a dog, let's say I cut the head off a dog, I would be condemned by society, but I can do the same thing with a chicken and it's no problem. But then what's the moral difference between that dog and that chicken? Because I could very well adopt this chicken as a pet. It has the same, in my eyes, the same moral standing as that dog did. It just makes no sense. But it's culturally what we've defined as these are the animals that are pets and these are the animals that are farm animals, right? Like you go to China and they're eating dogs and cats left, right and center, same in Nagaland, whatever. They don't look at dogs the same way that society looks at dogs here, which is, it's so fascinating, that cognitive dissonance that we have based off our culture. Same with like religion. It's like where you're born dictates what your thought processes will be in terms of what you think is correct.
And religion tells you very properly, do not question. I'm an atheist, by the way. I've been an atheist for more than 20 years right now. No religion ever made sense to me. So, I mean, the moment somebody says, don't question. Don't trust that person. That would be my advice.
That's very scary to tell people not to question. You know, I'm not an atheist. I think I'm more agnostic. I think I label myself as nothing, because I feel like, I don't know, I mean, I love Christopher Hitchens and Dawkins, but I just feel like I'm not capable of really knowing anything. And so I just prefer to say I'm nothing personally. But I find it so crazy. If I had a kid and let's say I'm religious and I tell my child not to question, I can't wrap my head around that, because I would want to teach my child to critically think. I would want to teach them to have the skills to ask and question everything, then make up their own decisions about what they think is right based off the ability to make clear decisions themselves. So yeah, I find that.
If I can just comment on that really shortly, you see, the problem is that parents have to have a certain level of control over their children, because then the child could be influenced by pretty much anything. Child could start doing drugs.
Of course.
So it is important to a certain degree. Of course, I understand that parents, but most parents don't necessarily do it only for that. They're scared that the child is going to convert to the other team.
Yeah.
And Indian parents especially love to control their children. You know, like I come from a very traditional Indian background.
Do you?
I do. And my parents are like, we just want control over him, where he studies, what he eats, who he marries, how many children he has. They want to control everything, basically. And when you are now taking that control from them and saying, Mom, Dad, I want to eat only. There are so many students, especially girls in this country, who stand up and ask me after my lectures, like, I want to change, but my family just won't let me. What do I do? And I look at them and tell them honestly, you're stuck. It's messed up. There's nothing you can do. You can probably go home. I'll tell them, don't fight with your parents like how I did. It doesn't work properly. Go and convey it to them softly. Give them time to process it. Stand by your ground. You know, protest if you can, like saying, you know what, I won't eat this today if you're not going to make it vegan for me. And then there might come a time where they're like, you know what, fine, we will accommodate you. I believe where you're from in the West, children have much more rights. Here, we don't have any rights. So
it's crazy. Like I see that on a day-to-day basis, and I feel so blessed because like my mom, I went vegan when I was 15. And when I first went vegan, I'd watched Earthlings, and I showed my mom. And I was like, went vegan overnight. I watched Earthlings, and I was like, Mom, that's it. I'm like giving up animal products. And I shared with her Earthlings, and then she called me and she was like crying, and she's like, I can't believe this, blah blah blah. So I had
she actually watched it. What you said?
She actually watched it,
the whole thing.
Yes, I
haven't had the guts to watch the whole thing. I always stop when they show the sheep riding part. I'm just like, you know what, I'm done. This is just
it is so
too
burnt
depressing,
in my brain, Arvind, every one of those scenes, and I think I've seen it about 20 times.
You know the part where they show the guy like trying to like tackle the sheep while the sheep's running? That's where I stop. I've tried watching the whole thing twice. I stop at the part. I'm like, you know what? That's enough. Like, this is just, it's just horrible. I can't go beyond this.
It's words cannot describe. There is this one scene, and it is so brutal. I don't really want to describe it too much, but did you get to the fur scene in China? The Chinese fur farms?
The fur farm, yes.
So do you remember that
I know what you're talking about.
Where he looks up?
I just thought in my hand like this thing, right?
Oh my God, that his look
eyes
is just burnt in my brain.
I know what you're talking about. That's why I did the hand movement.
Yeah,
like, this is exactly what happens.
And it's just the level of brutality. It's just like medieval times, and it's just wild. It's crazy.
But you get away with it.
But you get away with it. You get paid to do it.
And your society and religion and culture reinforces it on you, which is why we need people like, again, I want to make one point very clear. I don't think any vegan is trying to take you away from your culture, away from your religion, or make you change your political stance. You can be left or right in politics. You can be pro-life. You can be pro-choice. You can be, what do you call, like Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Sikh, whatever, doesn't matter. We're just saying whichever parts of your religion or culture or tradition involve harming animals, just let those go. Keep the rest. That's it.
I feel like a basic premise of any viewpoint that you want to have in life, like religion, whatever, I think the moral baseline should be to simply not be hurting someone else, someone including an animal or a human. Then do whatever the fuck you want. But it's like the moment your choice or your decision starts harming someone, to me, that's when it raises moral questions.
I would like to add one more thing to that if I can. So what I am trying to do as an animal rights activist, you would know this word, probably the viewers might not. There's this word we commonly use known as animal liberation. We are working towards what we call as animal liberation, meaning that we want to create a society where animals can live freely, what they want to do in their lives, just like we humans can. Now, what you mentioned about don't hurt others, but still you go on living your life, that works more in a poetic sense, meaning like that's what you usually hear like in a sermon, someone saying just live life, hurt nobody, love all. But that doesn't really work in society, because in society we need to have laws. We need to have law enforcement to force these things upon the public. And in order to bring in, legislative change, that's the word, in order to bring in legislative change, we have to talk about animal rights, and what we're asking for is give animals the right to not be used as a commodity. Because if you give them that one right, it solves pretty much everything. Now understand, when we walk on the road and we're driving right now, obviously there might be an ant on the road, might smush the ant. So we cannot technically live in that poetic sense that you mentioned. I want to clarify that for the audience, because they'll be like, aha, but what about this?
You cannot be a purist if you're existing.
Which is why we're talking about, just like how we could be driving properly, there could be a drunkard in front of us, he crashes and he dies. Doesn't mean right now we are human rights violators. We don't violate rights, and animals need rights. So I would want to look at it more in a legislative way and talk about animal rights rather than, not that there's anything wrong in what you said, it's a nice thing to say, but I noticed that when we are concrete more about this and say we're asking for animal rights, demanding for legislative change, people are like, okay, that's what he's talking about. It's not like this overall utopian world where everything is all like, candy canes and
But I
sunshine.
think there's two aspects to it, because there's a consumer level mindset change around how we view animals, but then there's also a legislative way of looking at things as well. And of course, animals do need to be given moral personhood in the law. Now,
Indians won't even know what that means. You want to define it for them? What moral personhood means?
I mean, moral personhood is just giving animals who are like us, very basic rights to exist and live freely in the same way that humans would have.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, that has been stripped away from them. Now, before anyone argues to me on this and writes in the comments and says that, oh, but lions, blah, 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 please don't bring up the lions thing, because we are not lions. We have the ability for moral and rational thought. We are humans. So please don't say the lions thing again. Okay, next comment before we... Plants are sentient. They're living things. How can vegetarians or vegans have a problem with eating animals when plants also feel pain?
Yeah, clearly, like, this is the most commonly asked question, and the person asking this is not being, intellectually honest, obviously. So this came up in pretty much every lecture for me. Even recently, I had a girl stand up and tell me, like, exact same thing. How come you asking us to eat plants, which is saying not to kill animals? And I asked her, on what basis are you right now comparing a plant to an animal? She said, the plant's alive, you're killing it. The animal's alive, you're killing it. Then I asked her, okay, fine. Do you really think that killing two living things is the exact same thing? She was like, yes. Then I asked her, so is cutting a potato equal to chopping your head off? And she didn't have an answer for that. Because if we're now comparing based on life, I told her, a plant's alive, so is the pig, so is every human being in this classroom. How come you guys are special, but the pig's not? And she was like, oh, no, you can't kill me because blah, 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 whatever. I was like, okay, fine. Again, I asked, do you really feel that killing of, say, a cutting of an animal is the same of cutting of a plant? And she was like, yeah, I do think it's the same. Then I asked her, do you know what a stamen or a pistil is? Do you know what that is, by the way? They're the reproductive organs of a plant. So I said, if I right now went to a flower and plucked out the stamen and the pistil, and then I were to say, take a child and chop their privates off, is genital mutilation and that the same? She was like, no. I was like, then you have your answer. Clearly, you understand when this happens, there is no pain and suffering involved, and it's not the same. But when it happens to an animal or a human, it's different. But she was like, wait, but then I'm a human. I am not an animal. That was her point. I told her, no, you are definitely an animal. You belong to the kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata. You're of the order mammal. You're of the class primate, or then I think family hominid, genus Homo, and species sapiens. We are Homo sapiens under the animal kingdom, and we're comparing the Homo sapiens species to non-human animal species, which makes complete logical sense. Why on earth are they bringing a plant in there from the plant kingdom? What they're saying makes no sense. And really, if it was the same, then are you telling me if someone right now nuked the city and killed thousands of people, and I brushed my teeth, that's the same. I'm killing far more bacteria by brushing my teeth, by the way. So, very poor argument. But people love to hide behind it, again, because there is no consequence for it. So
absolutely. Yeah. And I think for me, my views around it is just about minimizing harm. At the end of the day, like when we look at the scale of harm, why would we go to an extreme of killing these multisensory beings when we could, who are eating the plants anyway, when we could just be eating the plants, and we're causing the least amount of harm when we know they don't have a central nervous system. So it is technically the least amount of harm. There's still some level of harm in plant agriculture production, in the transport, sure, but it's still the least amount that we can possibly do.
If we were to compare it to right now what we call as factory farmed meat and factory farmed dairy and eggs, then definitely yes, that is definitely, it's far less violent, because again, you have to cultivate more crops to feed those animals there. But again, like I said, I just want to add something to that. I would personally never take the argument of causing less amount of harm, because that can be extrapolated to pretty much anything. It is possible, let's just say, for example, there's a whale. And I know there are certain tribes in the Philippines who go out and kill one whale, and then the village eats for weeks. But they kill only one life. They're not killing multiple. So when you take the less suffering argument, you will walk into some problems, I'd say. So that's why I talk about animal rights. Doesn't matter about more suffering or less suffering. Animals in this human society have the inherent life to live free without being exploited. Because when you are making that argument, you could walk into potential potholes. You got to be careful about, just warning you. That's why I personally don't take the same stance.
So what do you think about, like on that note with the example you just gave of the whale, what do you think about communities that live in like coastal places? Because actually a few people have said to me that in coastal communities, it's very sustainable for people to be fishing and having fish as a source of protein versus just having plant-based.
See, the thing is that what they're saying is obviously true. Right now, the way the current system is set up, it's not conducive for a vegan lifestyle for everybody. It's not. Some of us, it's conducive quite well. For others, they had to make a little extra effort, whatever. But the point is that by using that as an excuse and not changing ourselves, we're not helping in creating change to happen. Let me put it this way. This is how the mind of a vegan and a non-vegan are quite different. A vegan sees an issue, same issue, and he's like, oh my God, that's bad. Those people actually probably don't have any other option. Now, do I use this as a justification to go back to killing animals? Or do I say, you know what, I'm going to change myself and convince others also to change so that we can then change the overall structure and the way the market and the supply chain works so that even those people will get vegan options. The non-vegans like, hey, look, they can't do it. I won't do it. Haha, vegans, you suck. So the mindset has to shift. The non-vegan is going to continue using the status quo. He's going to justify the status quo and not think the same way. Because unless... Usually if I go for any kind of debate or something, I say to them, the first 20 minutes have to be spent first on arguing and debating about animal rights and coming to a conclusion on that. Because unless we come to that conclusion, no matter what the situation is, you're going to keep justifying the status quo. I understand the status quo is not conducive for veganism for everybody. Let's change the status quo, not use that as an excuse to continue doing what we've been doing for the past thousands of years. That's the way we should think. And the second thing is, even people who in that population you're talking about, like fishery culture, how come even they have Nokia phones and Apple phones and they have laptops and they have, I don't know, Nike shoes? So apparently something called globalization exists in this world, whether it's good or bad, whether corporations are good or bad, or capitalism is evil, that's a different topic altogether. But in this current non-vegan system, it seems to be providing goods and services to people of various communities around the world, despite where they come from. You see a child in Africa, a remote village, jogging with Nike shoes. How is there a Nike factory near him? No. So it means globalization. If we can give them Nike shoes and cell phones, why can't we give them plant-based food? Let's create that system. That's my point. So the vegan thinks, how can I create that? And that's by now us raising awareness, educating more people, and having more people now change the way what they eat and where. And once that starts to shift, the market will shift, giving even more, you can say, underprivileged people other options as well.
Yeah, it's basic supply and demand. Yeah. Okay, next question. Oh, this is a fun one. Veganism is only for the rich.
Again, that depends on what foods you're eating, right? Like we discussed, I think sometime earlier, I don't know if it was on camera or off camera, like almond milk costs 450 rupees per liter and it sucks. And it's not that nutrient dense either way. So if you're going to right now say that vegans, they like, people like to paint a picture, these anti-vegans, oh, vegans must eat avocados, they must drink almond milk, they probably only buy from Starbucks, only, I'm saying. Yeah. So my point is that it depends on what you choose to eat. And that one video of mine that went super duper viral, you must have seen it, when people ask me, well, vegan food is too expensive. What can you eat? Not everybody can afford it. Well, what about idli, dosa, chutney, sambar, puri, masala, chapati, kurma, poha, upma, pongal, khichdi, uttapam, idiyappam, lemon rice, tomato rice, coconut rice, coriander rice, putina rice, tamarind rice, veg biryani, veg fried rice, Szechuan noodles, gobi manchurian, mushroom manchurian, baby corn 65, bel puri, pani puri, vada pav, samosa. So our traditional Indian foods and Indo-Chinese cuisine already happens to be vegan friendly if we merely remove the dairy component from it. Instead of cooking with ghee or butter, just use oil instead. Instead of using paneer, just use tofu instead. No cholesterol, cheaper in price, and no animal cruelty. Instead of using some kind of creamer to thicken your gravy or something, use coconut milk instead. A few swaps here and there. I understand meat is protein dense. Eat soy chunks. You can make seitan at home. In my house, we always have this big pot of curry that is made from soya chunks and seitan, because seitan, it has 75, vital wheat gluten. Yeah, 75 grams of protein per 100 grams. But the problem is the amino acid profile is kind of crap in that. So you have to add some other kind of legume family. And I tend to add soy chunks, which is 52 grams of protein per 100 grams.
Soy chunks.
And soy chunks is dirt cheap. Vital wheat gluten is not that expensive. And probably if you're someone from North India and you know a mill near your place where they they remove the wheat bran from the flour and they make it, you can probably go there and get it at a cheaper price, the vital wheat gluten. If a company right now in India called as Urban Platter, heard of it? They sell vital wheat gluten. So we always make like this 100 gram of seitan and 100 grams of soy chunks. And then I make a curry with that. And I cook amazingly, by the way. And then we just add that to our dish. Our dish is more like rice. South Indians, we eat rice. And then do you know what is kootu? K-O-O-T-U?
No.
So it's a South Indian dish where it's made with lentils and vegetables and coconut milk, just this nice spicy gravy, tangy stuff.
Yum.
And I mix that with the rice. My side dish is some kind of vegetables, could be cabbage, could be potatoes, could be beetroot. I love beetroot, by the way. And some of that high protein seitan soy chunk mixture. That's it. Basically normal, like Tamil Nadu, right? Tamil people, we eat rice and some kind of meat gravy and vegetables. I'm eating the exact same food. I'm just replacing the meat gravy with the gravy from soy chunks, and seitan. So it's not necessarily expensive.
Yeah, wow, it's just easy swaps.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You know, I was doing a video the other day and I learnt that 100 grams of soy chunks is 53,
52, yeah, more or less,
52,
give or
50,
take, yeah.
depends on the brand, I guess, of protein. And in comparison, that's nearly double the amount of protein that you get from a regular chicken breast. And we had it side by side and I was like, my mind was blown because it's affordable, it's healthy, it's a great alternative, and it's tasty.
It tastes amazing, yeah.
I love it. I love soy chunks. And someone who used to enjoy eating meat, I find it a great replacement personally. I don't always like to have, and it's not always accessible to get things like Beyond Meat and all these things. It's so expensive as well.
Right. We have Good Dot in India, though. I
love
Good Dot.
Yeah.
Good Dot is amazing. And if you are from
So
Bombay,
cheap,
right, you're so
yeah.
lucky. Their restaurants, their food is so affordable.
Yeah.
Man, the first time I ate at a Good Dot cafe, I asked for their fried crispies. Okay, have you tried those
I
things?
love the fried crispies.
And I used to love eating fried chicken like 11, 12 years
Yeah.
ago. Like I was addicted to that stuff. So when that lady, the waitress came and gave me my fried crispies, I put some ketchup and I bit into it. I was honestly shocked. And I walked up to her and I was like, are you sure this is not meat? She was like, I'm very sure, sir. I'm like, are you sure? Because this smells and tastes and the texture is just like meat. And I was just so shocked because Good Dot is an Indian brand. It's not even a foreign Western brand.
It's produced here, which is why it's so cheap. In fact, their pricing is less than actual meat. So their per 100 gram pricing is less than mutton and less than chicken. They actually have a product that is so good if you're an ex-meat eater.
And mutton daba curry.
The mutton daba curry, but you can actually get, so there was this was in Bombay. There was a company called Ubuntu Eats.
Oh, I know, Abhinav's
Abhinav's.
store. Yeah.
So they had an actual physical restaurant, and this restaurant would take that mutton and make this South Indian special curry. And I've never had this curry before, but it was the tastiest mutton curry thing I have ever had. I don't know what it was
like,
called.
If you blindfold someone and put that, they'll say, this is not veg, this is mutton. Like
Yeah.
it tastes, it's strikingly, it's shockingly, scaringly like meat.
Yeah.
That's how it tastes.
Yeah.
Honestly. And if I can just add one thing, because I know there are a lot of people who are watching this just to hate, so we have to make sure we counter them as well. You did mention the part where you compare, and I'm a nerd, so I have to mention these things. It's a part where you compare chicken and soy chunks, right? One thing, yes, we will agree is that chicken is more bioavailable than soy
Yes,
chunks, meaning that the
yeah.
human body will assimilate and absorb it better because you are an animal, you're eating an animal, it is similar to your molecular structure,
Yeah.
it will do that. That is true. But this is something you need to be worried about only if you're focused on muscle anabolism. That is, people who are trying to build physical muscle tissue on their body. For those kind of people, when they've asked me, like, can vegans do bodybuilding? I tell them, yeah, eat soy chunks, seitan and stuff, but also supplement with some kind of high protein plant-based powders.
Yeah, but
Just to be-
which most people do in the gym anyway.
Whey
So this is
supplements.
what I don't get
Huh.
because everyone in the gym is like, oh, I don't want to be taking, people who don't train at the gym will say stuff, vegans have to take all this extra protein. It's like, hang on, everyone in the gym is taking whey protein shakes. So what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
Then they'll
I'm
say
just
that-
replacing the whey protein with pea protein.
True.
What's the problem?
Because pea protein is processed. And whey apparently isn't.
And whey
So-
is not, yeah.
So yeah, but no, it's good. Like, I think it's important that people like ourselves remain objective and just keep giving out the information, because you won't believe this. There are people out there who want to change, who will listen, who are sensible, who are not held back by the shackles of peer pressure,
Yeah.
conforming to the norm. They will break out. Especially I noticed that women respond much better to this message of veganism than men do, because many women in this world know what it's like to be oppressed, to not be given equal rights or treated
Yeah.
fairly. They know what it's like to walk down a dark alleyway at night and have some random stranger follow you and feel that fear in the pit of your stomach. And if someone does touch you, that the uneasy feeling you feel. I have stood outside these slaughterhouses. I watch when the guy puts his hand and grabs the chicken backs away the exact same way. The body language is the same as a human being. They're like, get your nasty human hands off of me. So people are listening is what I wanted to say, though. I know, like, we do talk positively, then we go back to address the trolls and stuff, but we have to remain positive because there are good people, they do exist. And the more we have more people right now creating awareness and content and more information people get, we will soon see a bigger shift to this side. That's what I'm hoping. We'll be positive, I guess.
We have to be positive, Arvind, but on a personal note, like, I feel like I'm so pessimistic also at the same time, because when you look at the numbers in terms of the magnitude of what the situation is, it's so and incredibly depressing. And so it's like, whilst I'm also positive that yes, people are changing and it is happening in waves, and we can see massive shifts in consumer choices and the products available and the demand is there and all that stuff. The suffering is still at such a large scale. It's just, yeah.
I agree with you. I guess the way I see it right now is what I've told myself is I only have control over myself. I have
Yeah.
control over nobody else. And I will be putting in my 110% always for this cause, dedicate my life for this and do everything I can. And the change that chooses to happen with that will happen or will not happen. But at this point, it's difficult, I know, but I cannot hold myself accountable beyond that, because then I'll
Yeah.
just go insane.
Yeah.
And this hurts even more because many times when we sit down to edit our videos, we have to now watch through like a slaughterhouse footage and then pick out the least gory scene, which will not get flagged, and then we have to now, the vegan has to sit and watch this violence and then pick out the least violent part and choose to use that in our videos, because then we don't want the video to be flagged and then people won't watch it either way. The non-vegans are supposed to be watching this, not us.
Yeah.
But each time I watch that, it's honestly so depressing, and it just makes you can't be a vegan animal rights activist, a sincere one, and not be a misanthrope. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
You can't. You have to pick a side, human side or animal side. I'm team animal, for sure.
I feel like I'm so desensitized now to animal footage because I look at it so much. And I'm the opposite to you. I'm always trying to find the most fucked up part of the footage to put in my video. And I haven't been flagged at this yet.
I checked your channel. Many of your videos are flagged in Instagram.
Not
You notice? Okay, so you
How?
have
Tell
to
me, tell me.
create. You have to now
How do I
create
know it's
another
flagged?
account.
Huh.
Okay. Not your own account, because your own account, when you go through and see your stuff, it won't be the same. I can show it through her account if you want later. So when you
please.
see it through another lens, you will see many of your videos are flagged.
But what does flagged mean? Like,
Means that someone now has to click like, do you want to watch this video? It contains violent footage. They have to
oh,
see
like that. Yeah, like
that's
that.
what happens.
Okay, yeah. That doesn't bother me. That's fine.
But then your video's reach is reduced drastically.
Oh,
What could
okay.
potentially have reached,
That I've not
say,
noticed.
1 lakh people will now only reach 5,000 people. So which means that we have to actually cut back from showing reality, because social media also is not going to be nice to us in helping, because they want to create a happy platform that people only see stupid shit like someone is now going to the beach and eating sand or something. They want to just show the nonsense stuff. So everything is poised against us. I can see that. So it's hard.
Interesting.
You have to be careful about that. Create another fake
Yeah.
account or something and check your own profile.
But it's weird, Arvind, because I've not seen those videos that do show the click here to view. I have not noticed a drop in their engagement, and I
Okay.
think maybe that for me though, it perhaps comes down to how engaged perhaps the viewers are in the particular content, because it doesn't flag it right away. It takes time. So for a while, the content is performing, and then it maybe gets flagged. But but I'd love to see what you're talking about. Okay, the last comment. It's natural to eat meat. Vegans are just soft. Animals are raised for meat, and that is the natural order of things.
Okay, let's go one by one. Eating meat is natural. Yes, agreed. And what was the next sentence? Could you just come again?
Vegans are soft. Animals are
We are.
raised for meat, and that is the natural order of things.
Okay, so it's definitely not the natural order of things, because, I mean, having a big go down in which you tie up like 10,000 female animals and shove rods into them to make them pregnant is not the natural order of things. If this particular person was living in the jungle right now without any modern day medication, cellular device, GPS system, modern day weapons, and they decided to just, go and hunt animals like in the olden times, that is part of the natural order of things, because at that point in time, the animal has an equal chance of running away or probably goring you to death. It's a fair playing field. But right now, you choosing to lock up somebody in a room and then shove a knife in their throat, that's not the natural order of things. Vegans are soft, I agree. What's wrong in being soft? You want me to be an ass to you? That person wants me to beat them up? Does that make them happy? Like, what's wrong in being soft? What's wrong in being kind or compassionate or loving to another person? Shouldn't it be the opposite that's wrong? Like being a violent, horrible, tyrannical, diabolical person? Which are negative traits and which are positive traits? Calling someone, I guess they're calling like vegan men are wimpy and soft and stuff like that.
The gay comments come in. then
that's
somehow
wrong on multiple
men,
levels. But
I don't know where this comes from. It's like, and I actually see it really often on a lot of my
I
videos.
think in the West, I've noticed this right now in the past few years, especially, there is this increased bizarre trend from especially the far right wing, not everybody, mind you, but a lot of the far right wing people, where now if you say you're vegan, they'll associate a bunch of other stuff with you. And the same is true for people on the left wing as well. If you just say, for example, say there's a vegan who says he's going to vote for Trump. Oh no, you're white supremacist, this blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like you say one thing about yourself and then a bunch of other adjectives are drawn about you. So that's just people who lack critical thinking skills, and you're not going to necessarily convince them. They think that seed oils will kill you. If you take oil that's made from seed and put in your tongue, you'll die the next day. That's how they propagate these ideas. I've seen many of such things as well. About calling people gay, I mean, I don't consider that as an insult. I have friends who are gay, so I don't look at that's just how some people are born. I mean, he or she, whoever is gay, is not necessarily harming another person by being that, but you're actually harming and killing someone by eating meat, dairy, and eggs. So why is that a problem? So my point is that eating meat definitely is natural for human beings. So is killing other human beings and punching people in the face. And, every other horrible thing that humans have done to each other is also natural. For example, I had one girl stand up in a lecture and ask me, like, I tried to convince my friends to go vegan, but they keep saying that it's Darwinian evolution, it's natural selection. I told them, look, I completely agree with your friend, but he has to go there all the way. So if I show up tomorrow at his doorstep wearing a mask and a baseball bat and smash his brains out, Darwinian evolution. I'm stronger than you, and I decided to kill you. But no, that's apparently wrong. So unless you're willing to take it all the way, don't say stupid stuff like that. Human society is not built on the way how nature works. If that existed, we wouldn't have society. Society has rules, we have laws, and we create them by sitting down and talking rationally with each other and finding out what's right and wrong. And we've been evolving continuously, where we have now tried to remove so many wrongs that did exist in society. Even right now, when it comes to human rights, so many wrong things still exist, and we're trying to remove them as well. So it's good not to be natural, because nature sucks. Nature is violent, nature will kill you. So, and being soft also is good. I'm not saying we have to be wimpy, and I don't think vegans necessarily are wimpy.
But I think there's a big difference between being soft and being wimpy. I think that's a very important distinction. Like, I think having softness of heart and having compassion, empathy, and these traits is a wonderful trait to have. And that actually makes you a very strong person. But being wimpy, that's a completely different word altogether. That's just being scared.
And it's just generalizing. Of course, there are wimpy vegans. There are wimpy meat eaters as well. Like, that's just how a trait someone is born with. So look, again, the person you're talking about seems like an idiot. They seem to like just want to stigmatize and do the usual, like, oh, you're a vegan, then you must be A, B, C, D, E, like, like that. So that's pretty much what I have to say.
So something that came up recently, I was interviewing this Islamic girl who she's involved in Green Islam. She's a vegan, and she was talking about how during Eid, there's other ways that Muslims can give charity. They don't need to be slaughtering animals. That's really not a necessary part of the religion at all. And any time that I have commented on the lack of need of sacrificing animals, I'm labeled as being anti-nationalist, anti-religion.
Are you from Iran? Why will they name you anti-nationalist?
Anti-Indian, or so many weird terms. Or I'm against Muslims, I'm against Hindus, this, that. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on this. When it comes to sacrificing animals, it's still so prevalent in India today, and people seem to have very strong emotional responses when it comes to this conversation.
Be it sacrificing a goat for Bakrid, be it the slaughtering or sacrifice of animals like buffaloes that happens in some temples as well. Everything is equally wrong, which is just as wrong as also eating meat, dairy, and eggs every single day. I don't want to divide and say that one thing is worse than the other. In fact, everything is on the spectrum equally wrong. And in order to make this change, like I said earlier, we need to have legislative change, because very few religious people are going to come forward and be like, you know what, I won't do it. Which I know there are many Muslims who come and say, you know what, I don't want to kill a goat anymore. I have met quite a few who have done that. But vast majority obviously do. You need to bring forward legislative change. And that again happens when you have multiple people right now on your side. Because right now, if you talk about vegans in India, we're a blip in society. We're minute, microscopic, no one can see us. But if we had a loud voice of 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 5 lakh, 10 lakh, there's 1 million Indians finally Then if we raise our voice, the government might be like, oh, you know what, maybe we should take the people seriously, because there's actually a group of people right now who are asking for this. So I cannot give you an exact solution right now. My activism still remains the same for everybody, because I've had in my lectures as well, people stand up and ask me, I'm a Muslim, are you telling me not to kill a goat for Bakrid? I look at them and say, yes, definitely. Now, I don't try to say because your religion said this and this is peaceful. I don't care if it's in your religion or not. We are right now in the Democratic Republic of India. And right now, the law goes based on what the government says. And there are many things right now, probably freedoms, like I believe the talaq law doesn't exist in India. I could be wrong, I'm not sure. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm first of all not sure if it exists or not. If it doesn't, then it makes my case stronger. The point is that just because something is part of your religion, you can't just keep doing it. You have to, at the end of the day, respect the government's laws. Of course, right now the government permits you to kill. My job right now as an activist is to change that and make you stop. You're not going to stop. Most won't stop just by hearing me. So we have to enforce it. And how? Not through violence of our own means right now and doing that. It's by getting more voices on our side and then going for legislative change. Does that answer your question, or like, do you get what I'm coming from?
No, it does.
Like, because
absolutely.
if someone asks me like, hey, I'm a Muslim, I want to stop doing this, what do I do? I mean, I'll be like, first of all, I'm not the right person to. I don't know anything about your religion. So, but there are, like you said, many Muslim groups out there who are vegan and they do help other people make that shift as well.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to guide them on what they have to do to maintain their culture, but still, not sacrifice an animal. But my answer will always be just stop the sacrifice and stop the killing every day. That's what I would say.
I think the problem is sometimes as well, like some people you speak to who are religious do think logically and empathetically, but then a lot of people who I speak to who are religiously fueled, you cannot have a rational conversation with them, because every time you try and talk about, let's say, not sacrificing the goat, they'll just come back down to
the book.
Yes, but the book says I can.
Yeah.
And so then then the book says a lot of things that you can do, but you're not going to do that in modern society.
You can't do that. That's the good part. Thank God for modern society. You
exactly.
can't do it.
You'll be in jail. But what about those things then? Can't
Exactly.
you then justify doing them? But you're not doing them because the law says you can't.
Exactly. So that's how I think as well.
Yeah. So my last question for you, my team at Kindness with Amy, everyone's vegan, which is amazing. And I asked some of them to give me some questions for you, and they're big fans of you, by the way.
Thank you.
So one question I had from my editor was he was really curious, how do you quit your job and then go on a journey of becoming an animal activist and funding it? Like, how the hell do you do that?
Have you seen Harry Potter?
Yes.
The first movie. You know what McGonagall says to Harry, Ron, and Hermione when they ask how they beat the troll? Sheer dumb luck. I got lucky. I quit my job 8 years ago with the idea that I was again just this rage-fueled guy who just wanted to do something. I didn't have any plans for the future or anything. And I had some savings, 3 lakh rupees back then, which back then is quite a lot of money. And I used that to travel across. I can give lectures, make videos, the same old stuff. And by the time a year passed by, I was pretty much out of money. And I was lucky enough at that point to meet certain individuals and groups of people who came to me and said, like, we love what you're doing. How do you financially support yourself? And I told them, I don't. I'm out of money. I had to go back and get a job again. They're like, no, don't. We love what you do. So just keep doing it. We'll pay for your house rent. We'll pay your electricity bills. We'll buy food for you. We'll get you a laptop, a better camera. You just keep doing what you're doing. And through that, and right now I also have a Patreon account. Content creators can have a Patreon. And it's just through donations, somehow myself and my wife, we have managed to keep ourselves floating for 8 years. I will not say that there is, if you follow this path, you will surely succeed. No, it's sheer dumb luck along with relentless hard work from our side. Both.
Yeah.
You need luck and hard work.
Yeah, of course.
We got both in spades.
Of course. So if someone is pursuing this line that they want to go in, let's say it's someone who's a content creator and they really want to try and pursue this full time, would you suggest that they invest in themselves and just start creating and start doing?
We're talking about social media content creation.
When it comes to activism. So if they want to follow in your footsteps,
I would
basically.
say first try to keep your job and then try to start making content and see how that goes. Having social media like YouTube, Instagram as your financial source of income, if you ask me, is not smart at all. Stuff might go up once and then when it goes down, That's it.
Yeah.
It just will be down. So
Yeah.
you have to have a proper job.
Yeah.
If once you start putting your content out there and getting more traction and views, and you start getting people noticing you. See, I actually never went out there and asked for money. People came to me. I never asked it. So people will approach you eventually if people are impressed by what you do. Because there are people I know also who have started sanctuaries where they're just rescuing like 2 chickens.
Yeah.
And then they just started slowly, and one thing after the other, and more people watch and see, and everyone wants to support them. And now they have a big sanctuary. So it's not like there is a step-by-step plan you can do. It's very important. Look, in this day and age, without money, you can't do anything in this world. There's nothing you can do. Money is very, very important. So keep your job and see how you can slowly, acclimate to whole way of content creation, succeed there slowly. And then if you're going there well and you also start getting in donations and stuff, then you can consider quitting this.
Yeah.
But have an escape plan ready in case this fails and you get no donations.
Yeah.
So there is no book or a formula for this. It's just luck.
Yeah.
And I got lucky. I'll be honest. That's the honest answer.
Yes, lucky, but also, I think you did amazing work to attract the right people to begin with.
So
Yeah.
from our side, thank you for saying that. We are extremely hardworking and dedicated. Again, people have to
Yeah.
understand that when they see my face, they think, oh, Arvind's the guy who does everything. That's not true. So it's me and my wife.
Yeah.
And we have been in this together for 8 years now. And if you guys just see me talk, but she's the one behind the camera,
Yeah.
behind the editing. Everything is mostly her.
Yeah.
So it's a 2-person thing. And yeah,
That's amazing that you have that support of your wife.
it means so much that if I were alone right now, I would have gone insane. Because
Yeah.
you need at least someone as a pillar to support you.
Yeah.
Something. When everything goes wrong, when it's all down the drain and you think oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind, someone should be there. At least one person's enough. You don't need the whole world. Just one person's
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
And I am truly very lucky in that regard to
Yeah.
find someone who is willing to support me to this degree.
Yeah. Well, vegan men, I'm waiting for that one person as well. So, but dude, it's hard because I feel like everyone on the outside sees the finished product, right? They see all these videos and the videos doing well and the success and all this stuff. But the amount of hard work that goes into conceptualizing these things, making these things, traveling, editing, getting it to happen, and dealing with the stress and the financial pressures, and there is so much that goes on behind the scenes that people have no idea. And then at the end, that little 20-second thing at the end, so many hours and days and months have gone into
True.
getting it to that point. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I think you're an incredible person. I think you're adding so much value to this movement.
Thank you.
And inspiring so many people along the way, and I'm sure many, many more to come.
Well, thank you so much for having me and giving me this opportunity to talk on your podcast. And I honestly have to say, and I'm not just saying this to you because you compliment me. Understand that I am never like that. I don't just give out random compliments to people. If I say something, I mean it. You're one of the few celebrities who actually has the guts. You have another account with 2 million following, right? And you cross-post with that account your vegan message,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen anyone else do that so far.
Which is why my engagement has also gone down. But I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. I don't care. I'm just gonna keep doing
So
it.
that you have my respect for that, because I don't see any other celebrity honestly doing that, because they'll be like, this celeb is vegan. Yeah, but are they really using their platform to the best degree possible to be a voice for the animals? Oh no. They're just there to come to certain vegan events and say, you know what, I'm vegan. And look, I understand the fear they have. I'm not knocking them in by any way. But it takes guts to do what you're doing, and for that, you definitely have my respect.
Thank you so much, Arvind. I appreciate that. Well, thank you.